Wouldn't it be really nice to add $100,000 to your existing business, or if you don't have a business, to get your first 100,000? Let's talk about what you need to do in order to get your next $100,000 into the bank account with a new campaign. So the first thing we need to do is stop thinking about the business. We need to start thinking about campaigns. Any business that's under 5 million US dollars is a series of campaigns. And I always ask entrepreneurs to think as a campaign-driven enterprise. So the way that we add an extra $100,000 of revenue is through campaigns. Campaigns are the building blocks of revenue. So think about a big business like Nike. Nike is lots of little campaigns. They've got a campaign for basketball, a campaign for tennis, a campaign for skateboarding. They've got campaigns around certain individuals, campaigns around certain products. All of those little campaigns add up to big revenue for Nike. And we can be the same with your business. So what we need to do is run more campaigns. So each campaign is going to have CAOS at its bedrock. We're going to have a concept for the campaign. We're going to have an audience that we're targeting. We're going to have a special offer that we're bringing to market. And we're going to have a way of converting that offer into sales. So we call that CAOS. Concept, audience, offer, sales. I'm going to walk you through those 4 steps so that you can launch a new campaign ASAP and bring in 100,000 worth of revenue. So the first thing I want to do is share with you some principles of CAOS, concept, audience, offer, sales, and then we'll actually look at the tactical implementation as to how you can get this set up in the next hour or so. So let's talk about the concept. There are 3 concepts that I think work really well, and I call these the 3 O's. So you've got ouch, you've got obstacle, and you've got outcome. So these 3 campaigns, the first one is ouch. This is a daily problem that I experience. This is a frustration. This is a little paper cut that annoys me. This is something that I'm wrestling with. This is something that I think about as I'm falling asleep at night. It's a painful thing or a frustration that I want to remove. And we can build a campaign around removing something that's painful. So we call that ouch. The next one is obstacle. This is, I know where I want to get to, but there's something in the way. There's some reason why I can't get to it. There's a piece of equipment that's missing. There is a bit of training that I don't have. There is a resource that I would like to have, but I don't have that resource, and that means I'm prevented from getting the outcome. So I've tried to achieve something, but I can't get it, and there's an obstacle that I need to remove. The third thing is about outcome. It's about there's an outcome that I wish I knew more about how to get, but I don't know how to get there. So for example, in this video, I actually talked about the outcome of generating an extra 100,000 of revenue for your business. This little video is actually an outcome campaign. So I want you to think about this for your business. What is the pain that you remove? What is the obstacle that you help people to overcome? What is the outcome that you deliver? Those are the first 3 things that I want you to think about, because each one of those things is going to be the basis of a great campaign. The second thing that we need to think about is audience. This is the question, who is this for? Who is it that we're trying to target? Now, there's a couple of interesting things with audience. We know from looking at lots of different businesses that there are different audiences that are worth more money and different audiences that are worth a lot less money. So the mass market audience, we call that the main 90% of the audience. We know that they have spending power equivalent to about 40% of the total. We know that the top 10%, which is the niche market audience, these people have spending power of about 60%. So a mass market is looking for something that's cheap and commoditized. They want the most value for the least amount of money. It's a bit of a race to the bottom. The niche market are people who are passionate. They want to be part of a community. They want content. They want to follow an influencer, a guru, or an educator, someone who's an authority in their space. They're really in the process of learning more, geeking out. They're expressing some passion. They're not necessarily looking to spend the least amount of money. They're likely to spend a lot more money if there's a community, if there's passion, if there's a creator behind it, right? So all of those things really matter to that top 10%. So what we're looking for is a way of figuring out who are the people in the top 10% of your audience, who are the people in the bottom 90%, who are the ones who shop on price, and who are the ones who shop on increased value. And we want to target an audience of people who are value shoppers versus price shoppers. So to do this, we want to create something called an ICP. An ICP stands for an ideal customer persona. You want to give that person a name, preferably a real person that you've actually dealt with before. You want to figure out what are their interests. You want to figure out where is their current attention. Where do they spend their time? Are they on Instagram? Are they on LinkedIn? Do they follow particular authors? Are they reading certain publications? Are they watching certain YouTube videos? Where's their attention currently? And then you want to think about that person and really double check, is the ouch, the obstacle, and the outcome relevant to that person? Have you matched that up correctly? So have we got the right concept that will appeal to the right person? Okay, the third step is the offer. So here's how an offer works. Inside the mind of your ideal customer persona, we've got something called the situational model. And the situational model is their current reality, their desired reality, and their obstacles or criteria that they face. And what happens is that a person feels that their current reality is less than perfect, and they imagine that their desired reality would be much better, but they're worried about, can they avoid hitting all these obstacles that are in their way? They typically try things that don't work. They try different ways of getting what they want, and they keep banging into their obstacles and their criteria. And that means that they become increasingly frustrated. And then along comes your business, and you offer something called a path of least resistance. And a path of least resistance is a way of going from where you are now to where you want to be without hitting any of your obstacles and criteria. Another word for this path of least resistance is an offer, right? So you're offering somebody the ability to go on a path of least resistance to get what they want. Now, all products and services essentially fit within this framework. So if you were to take the iPhone, if you were to take a camera, if you were to take a consulting service, if you were to take business coaching, all of those products or services help people go from their current reality to their desired reality without hitting their obstacles and criteria. And it's the path of least resistance. It's the best approach for doing that. And if people believe that you are offering them the best approach from point A to point B, then they're going to buy from you. So we want to construct an offer around that. Now, the best offers are also what we call packages. So a package includes things that you can do and then things that others provide. So imagine this, imagine you went to a personal trainer who's going to help you with your fitness, and they can meet you at the gym. They can help you to do exercise workouts. That's what they do because they're a personal fitness trainer. But then imagine that they also package in a diet plan from a nutritionist. Imagine they also package in some gym equipment from a top clothing provider. Imagine they also package in an app you put on your phone for tracking your food. Maybe they put an app on your phone for tracking your workouts. Maybe they utilize a photographer for getting before and after photos. So they can package all of this in. To the degree that someone packages this all up together, they create additional value. So the sum is worth more than the parts. A lot of people like fitness trainers, they only think about what they do. They never think about what they can package in. But bigger businesses always think about what the package includes. Take something like Porsche 911. It's 2,500 suppliers all working together to create this one thing that we call a Porsche 911, but it's lots of things. It's lots of things that are packaged in. If you go to a restaurant, they package in the wine from a vineyard. They don't have a vineyard themselves, they just bring it to the table. So I want you to be thinking about what is the package of things that form the basis of this path of least resistance. Once you've got all of that, you need to create something which is a visual representation. And of course, that could be a web page, it could be a brochure, right, on a PDF, but you need to create a visual representation. Something like 70% of our brains is dedicated to visual processing, which means if you can't create a visual representation of your offer, 70% of the brain can't really take it in. So you need to create a visual representation of the offer that you're gonna provide to people. So the next piece is sales. We need to create something called LAPS, leads, appointments, presentations, and sales. So the leads are gonna come in, the appointments are going to get booked, or essentially you're going to have their undivided attention. You're going to present people with your offer, and you're going to see if you can follow up to make sales. Now, here's some interesting statistics about sales. 44% of entrepreneurs attempt one sales call and then they give up. 44%. However, 80% of buyers buy after the 5th contact. So there's a huge chasm between when people want to buy and when people want to stop selling. You can increase the success of any business if you just follow up 4 more times. So if you're a typical entrepreneur, almost half of entrepreneurs are giving up after the 1st attempt, and 80% of buyers are buying after the 5th follow-up. So essentially you can grow almost all businesses just by following up more than most businesses do. So we want to have a LAPS dashboard, which is leads, appointments, presentations, and then sales follow through, which is at least 5 follow-ups. So this is the fundamental basis for every campaign. Every campaign should have a good concept, a clear audience, an offer, and a sales follow-up process. Once you've got those, we need to now structure this into a campaign. Okay, so what we want to do is have a campaign timeline, and campaign timelines have a few key bases that we want to hit. So base number 1 is we want to do some planning, right? That's the phase that we're in right now watching this video. So we're going to be planning out our campaign. That's where we look at our CAOS and we kind of map it all out. We take out a notepad like this one, we start mapping out our campaign. So that's the planning phase. When we then launch, we launch into a phase called signal collection. Signal collection is where we don't ask for sales, we just ask for signals. And this is where all campaigns really begin, which is the signal collection phase. Once we get enough signals, we then move into the offer phase. This is where we're offering people what it is that we have to offer and we're making it available. After the offer, we do sales follow-up. And then finally, we do our review, where we celebrate, we innovate, we figure out what we did right, what we did wrong, and how we could improve. So this is what we call a campaign timeline. So once we've done the planning phase of looking at the underlying things that work, we then move into signal collection. There are a couple of things that I think are the best signal collecting campaigns where you're getting people to signal that they're interested in what you do. So signal collection number 1, especially for a new business, is join a waiting list. Number 2 would be an online assessment or a quiz. Number 3 would be opting in for a free mini course. Number 4 would be opting in for a live webinar. Or the final one would be opting in for a high quality piece of content that's coming, such as a book. I'll put that as a book giveaway or opt in for a book, but it could be a report, it could be a white paper, it could be an extended video, right? So it's opting in for something. Now, all of these are campaigns where people do not have to spend any money. They're just simply signaling that they're interested in the topic. So let's say you're offering business coaching. All of these would be join the waiting list for a particular business coaching offering, join the waiting list for an assessment to see if your business needs to solve an obstacle or deliver an outcome or get rid of an ouchie, a mini course on any of those things, a live webinar on any of those things, or a book that's coming out on any of those things, or a book that's already available on any of those things. So this is signal collection. The important thing about signal collection is no money changes hands. You're just asking people to signal their interest. Now, here's the reason that we do this. In order for someone to buy something, they probably have to be 90% sure that they want to buy it. But in order for someone to join a list of people who have signaled interest, they probably only need to be 10% sure that they're interested. So by getting people to opt in at the 10% interested, you've got plenty of opportunity to then warm them up to be 90% interested for the offer over time. So these are the campaigns that are getting people to signal interest, that they're somewhat interested, and then warm up to the idea through any of the content that you're going to provide in here. Now, by the way, if you want to really deep dive into this, Scorecard Marketing. So this is the book where I've actually gone through exactly the psychological triggers of how to warm people up, of how to get people to signal interest, and how to set up the campaign. There'll be a link somewhere around this video that allows you to download the PDF version of this. In particular, I would love it if you read the first 30 pages. It's a quick read. Look at the first 30 pages. It's going to show you the deep dive in how to get people to signal interest on these campaigns. Okay, so the next part of this is the offer. Now, the offer is all about using that visual representation, right? This is where you show people the visual representation of what they can get. Now, you might have an offer page that shows people the specifications of what you're going to offer. You might have a product overview. You might have a pricing sheet. Maybe you have a gold, silver, and bronze version. The most important thing is that it's visual. You've got to have a visual representation of what it is that you do. Remember, people's brains are mostly about visual processing. People have to see it. They need to see the photos. They need to see the design elements. They need to see the branding. Now that could be a website landing page, it could be a PDF, it could be a physical brochure, but in some way, this is where people want to see the visual representation of what's on offer. Now, to conclude with this visual representation, you're going to actually tell people what they get and how much it's going to cost. And you're going to throw that out there and you're going to say, here's the actual offer. Here's what you get and here's how much it costs, right? So that happens right here. Now at that point, we then transition into sales follow through. Now in the sales follow through, this is where you might ask people if they're interested. You might follow up a week later with some more information. You might create a bit of a nurture sequence on email. You might do a follow-up call a little bit later as well. You might send a text message. You might have another email, right? The truth is that people buy around the 5th follow-up. Now most people are giving up 44%. Are giving up too early. 44% say if you don't buy when I first make the offer and when I first tell you the price and when I first tell you how much it is and what you get, if you don't buy straight away, that's it. 44% of you say, no, that's it. I'm not following up any further. That's not how buyers behave. 80% of people, they want to buy after the 5th follow-up call. So I want you to plan for that. I want you to be prepared, and I don't want you to feel discouraged if it takes 5 follow-ups, 6 follow-ups, 7 follow-ups in order to get most of your sales. That's normal buying behavior. You want to do this in a polite, elegant, fun, enjoyable way. You may even want to ask permission to follow up so that you don't feel like you're chasing people without permission. You might want to ask people up front, is it okay if I follow up with you a few times over the next couple of weeks just to provide you with some more information and to let you know how things progress? If you can get permission, then you're not chasing people without their permission. It's totally agreed up front. So that's something you could do here. So that's the sales follow-up. Now the review is where you go through and you look at your laps and you're looking for your percentages. So you're actually saying, how many leads did we generate? What percentage of people went through and booked an appointment or gave us undivided attention? What percentage of people were presented with the offer and that fully understood it? And what percentage of people actually bought the product? So we're looking for our conversion statistics. The most basic conversion statistics is leads to appointments, appointments to presentations, presentations to sales. Maybe you're going to do it a little bit different. I know that in retail stores, they talk about footfall and traffic and people who walk into the store versus how much the average spend is or how many people walk out without buying things. On websites, they talk about traffic to conversions. So any of those numbers are great, whatever you use to review the process. And then you're going to talk about this with your team and say, what could we do to generate more leads, get more of those leads into appointments, get more of those presentations into sales. You're going to go through and review and see if you can figure out how you could improve. And then that takes you back to the planning phase for your next campaign. Alrighty, so in order to get started and in order to do a lot of the heavy lifting, why don't you check out scoreapp.com? We've got 150 campaign templates. These templates are tried and proven. They're put together by award-winning marketers and salespeople. These are the type of campaigns that just do all of the heavy lifting here. In fact, we've got a few new templates that have just gone live. Are you ready to launch a business? This is for a good business coach. Are you a sales expert? That's a sales coach. We've got one here for fashion. Are you ready? Or this one, win £500 worth of luxury jewelry. Join the waiting list for this luxury tote bag. Request a copy of my new book that's coming out. What's your productivity score? So out of all of these, one of these is going to fit with your business. Spend 5 or 10 minutes looking through these templates. It's super easy to exchange the made up logo with your logo, to change any of the visuals, to put your photo and your bio in there, and essentially to use this as part of your campaign. All of the campaigns we talked about, assessments, quizzes, waiting lists, book requests, they're all in here. So you've got campaign templates for all of those types of campaigns. You've just got to apply it for yours. All of these are designed to be a visual representation that helps people to signal interest. So essentially, we've done a lot of the heavy lifting for you. We've made it super easy. If you just want to log into ScoreApp, that's going to be one of the things that you can do. So at the beginning of this video, I said add $100,000 to your business, generate your next 100,000 or generate your first 100,000 if you're a startup. These are some of the key tools that I use in order to do that. Obviously, what we need to do is work backwards on our laps model. How many sales equals $100,000? How many appointments and presentations do we need in order to get that number of sales? How many leads do we need to generate in order to get those appointments, those presentations, and those sales? So we can work backwards through the laps and figure out How many leads do we need in order to create those $100,000 worth of sales? Now, if your business sells something that's above $10,000, it's not going to be many leads. It probably might be 100 or 200 leads will generate 10 sales at $10,000. If your business sells something that's fairly low ticket, you're obviously going to need a lot more leads. Once you've got this campaign in place, you're in a good position to get those leads, those appointments, those presentations, and those sales, and to make that $100,000. As I said, make it super easy on yourself. Get yourself a free account with ScoreApp, have a look through that template library and see if there's a campaign that does 80-90% of the heavy lifting for you. Don't feel that you can only have one ScoreApp live at any time. You can have multiple ScoreApps live and out there. You could have 3, 4, 5 different campaigns, one for a webinar, one for a mini course, one for an assessment, one for a waiting list, right? So you could have multiple campaigns running and each one of them is generating signals of interest, warming people up, ready for that offer, ready for that sale. There will be a link somewhere around this video to get yourself a free account on ScoreApp if you don't already have one, or if you do have one, you can just log straight in and get started right away. Okay, now all of this is mapped out. The question everyone asks is, how do you get people to engage in the campaign? Well, let's have a look at some of your options. When it comes to throwing money at the problem, that's what we call paid. The top ones that I like: ads, sponsorships, and joint venture or partnerships. And essentially ads, you're going to use either Google or you're going to use Facebook, Meta. You're going to use any other ad platform that you can find that is specific to your niche. Maybe Amazon. Amazon actually has a lot of good ads. Sponsorships. This could be sponsoring a YouTube channel. It could be sponsoring a live event. It could be sponsoring somebody's newsletter. Or a joint venture partnership is where you actually forge a paid partnership with an influencer or someone who's in a position of authority with your audience. So these are all your paid options. And when it comes to earned, which is another way of saying not paid, you've got signature content. So that's where you post on social media in the hope that the algorithm puts you in front of the right people. You've got direct messages. That's where you actually send people cold messages on social media, looking at their interests, looking at the groups that they're part of, and just noticing, hey, you're part of this group. I thought I'd send you a message about something that we've got going on. So that's a cold direct message. This could be where you go to your existing email list if you've got one. So you could actually have a look at how many people are on your email list and send them some existing emails. This is where you could do something called search engine optimization. It's a little bit slow, but sometimes if you do this correctly, you can end up with Google sending people your way. These are all ways that you can generate traffic without spending any money. All right, so this is mostly throwing your time. This is mostly throwing your money at the problem. The key is consistency. If you're going to send out direct messages, I want you to send out 100 a day for 30 days, totaling 3,000 direct messages. If you're going to do signature content, I want you posting 3 times a week, every single week for the next 12 weeks, right? So that you're actually putting a lot of content out there. You're getting a lot of opportunities to strike a home run. If you're going to send out emails, I want you to write a whole email campaign with maybe 7 or 8 emails that are going out to your database. If you're going to run ads, you can't just run a little bit of ads. You're going to have to run a significant amount of ads. I think today you need to be looking at $1,000 a month at least if you're going to be running ads. That would be a very small ad campaign. Sponsorships, $1,000 plus per sponsorship. JV and partnerships, $1,000 plus per joint venture or partnership. So you're going to have to be spending money on these things. Bigger businesses, you might spend a few $1,000s in each campaign, or maybe even tens of thousands in each campaign. You're only going to do that if you know that your lapse numbers are going to justify that. So this is one of the things that we look at here called allowable cost per lead. And that is, how much can you spend in order to generate a lead, which turns into an appointment, a presentation, and a sale. Okay, so we've covered a little bit of that. Let's finish up. I want to give you a few things to do next. If you've enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel. We're putting up lots of content to help your business to generate more leads and better clients. So subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment if you've got any further questions, and I'll make another video in the week or 2 ahead. I look forward to seeing you soon. All the best.